everyone, I'm Anne-Marie, and I've been a BCBA for 4 years. I'm actually subbing for two very great people. One is John, who is very blessed to be away on a Dominican cruise, and the other is Danielle, who is very, very blessed as well, and she's on maternity leave. So I am very blessed to be filling in for them and to be with all of you. So here's our agenda for today. Ta-da! Introduction, principles of behavior, functions of behavior, ABA therapy, and review. So just a heads up, this presentation was not made for me in mind. Some of these pictures I kind of don't understand. So at times I may be going, I don't understand this. The introduction. What is behavior in ABA? What is behavior? Behavior is the activity of living organisms. So if it's alive, it has behavior. So bacteria has behavior. Plants have behavior, trees have behavior, cats, dogs, animals, everything has behavior. Viruses, I guess that's a little questionable, but rocks don't have behavior, it's not alive. Rugs don't have behavior, and soda doesn't have behavior. You get the difference? Yes. Let's see, move on. So behavior or not. So let's start. I have no idea what movie this is from. Would someone like to fill me in?
Don't know.
I think it's a Weekend at Bernie's.
Ooh, I like that story. I think I've seen a play based on it. So is this behavior?
Yes.
Absolutely, they're both alive. Is this behavior?
He's alive.
We think, at least.
Or he could be
After season 1. Sorry, spoilers.
Don't know what it is.
Is this behavior?
Yes.
Absolutely. We are Disney people at our company. Probably a prerequisite you have to like Disney to come in. Is this behavior?
No.
I have to argue no as well. They're not alive, they're cartoons. When I was practicing my boyfriend last night, he said they are alive. Wasn't gonna argue, I could see his point of view. Is this behavior?
No.
Thank you, I agree with you. Is this behavior?
Yes.
Absolutely. What is applied behavior analysis? Applied behavior analysis is the science in which tactics derived from the principles of behavior are applied systematically to improve socially significant behavior, and experimentation is used to identify the variables responsible for behavior change. ABA is also the gold standard treatment currently for autism spectrum disorder. And honestly, like I said, I love doing it. It's truly a passion. I hope whoever you work with, whatever you work with, whoever dyad, I hope it's a passion for you as well. All my fun words, that just makes me so happy. Behavior, response, science, determinism, environment, stimulus, formal, temporal, functional. It has to all put a smile on my face. The principles of behavior, reinforcement, punishment, and extinction. Reinforcement. Who knows what reinforcement is? Raise your hand. Okay, so reinforcement is increasing any behaviors you want to see more of. Or as my professor in college would say, contingent upon behavior, the probability of behavior goes up. Oh my gosh, I was doing it all last night, can't do it anymore. Look at that. So reinforce behaviors you want to see, the behavior goes up. So positive reinforcement, we add something, the probability, yes, there we are. The probability of behavior goes up, such as verbal praise. It's quality, not quantity. So be descriptive, like don't just say, good job, buddy. Tell the child exactly what they did that was good. So for example, if the child played a good football game or played a good baseball game, say, you know, you really showed I'm not a sports person, I just realized. You really hit that ball well, you really threw that ball well, you really worked together very nicely as a team. Show enthusiasm and praise immediately. Praise as quickly as you can. Don't wait an hour, don't wait a day or two, as quickly as you can. Physical praise, excuse me. High fives are great. Nowadays, fist bumps. When we were in COVID-19, we were doing this elbow situation that I don't know what it was about, but I was doing it. The kids loved it. Negative reinforcement. When I was practicing this presentation, it confounded some people. They had never heard of negative reinforcement before. So negative, something is taken away and the probability of behavior goes up. So easy cheat. So you are avoiding something or you're escaping something. So 2 good examples. An alarm clock goes off. I am not a morning person. That annoying noise. So if I'm not a morning person, I am going to put my alarm clock on the other side of my room. I need to escape this noise right now. So I'm going to get out of bed, walk to the other side of my room, and turn it off and escape that noise. Probability of behavior goes up. So each and every morning, I'm gonna get out of bed, escape that noise. And I'm probably gonna stay awake because I'm already out of bed. Let's see, punishment. Oh my goodness, such a political world. What did we think of when we think of punishment?
Negative.
Not bad. Punishment is used when we want to reduce something. Unfortunately, punishment has been a bit of a tainted word, but academic me, I just think of contingent upon behavior, something that occurs and probability of behavior is reduced. Yes, I got it. My college professor would be proud. So positive punishment. Something is added and probability of behavior decreases. So honestly, punishment should not be used as a first round of action because there are side effects and it can go wrong. So some of the side effects down here are doo-doo-doo. So it can evoke emotional and aggressive reactions. The child may escape and avoid the people doing it, such as they may start escaping and avoiding their guardians, their nanny, their babysitter, favorite teachers. And you have to tell parents this before you go in. Hence, we always start with environmental factors, anecdotal, reinforcement, extinction, before we get into the punishment situation. Quite honestly, it's been a while since I used punishment in any of my behavioral treatment plans. That's because all these other interventions just work so well. But if I needed to, I wouldn't necessarily turn my nose up at any of these. There's a reason why they're here. Well, actually, shock, we're gonna get into them now. For me. And no.
It's like a dog fence.
Yeah. We'll get into that.
Visible fence.
I just hope my boss speaks Amory enough to know what I'm saying. So, verbal reprimand. Verbal reprimand, as my professors taught me when I was trained to be a BCBA, even though it works and can be highly effective when done right, is not recommended. Does anyone know why?
Not recommended for children with autism?
Not recommended. Well,
In general.
in ABA, I'm gonna say in ABA.
Okay.
Like, does anyone know why?
It's negative. It makes the child feel bad about themselves at the very least.
Not a bad answer, but not necessarily the answer I'm looking for, though I would like to see the research on that. That's always one of my answers. So, most people do not do verbal reprimands correctly. So to do a verbal reprimand correctly, you have to do it each and every time. So guardian, all have to be on the same page. So let's say mom is saying, don't do that, or whatever it is, each and every time, as the BCBA taught her to. But dad is just giving it every now and again. This is not going to work. Doing it each and every time can be very difficult. That being said, my professor in grad school, while I was training, did tell me a story where this did work. It's one of my favorite stories, so I'm gonna try to tell it as I can. So when he first entered the school I was training at, he entered the adult program, and it was a little bit different, a little bit more loosey-goosey than when I came to training. So they were walking him around saying, oh, this is our program, and by the way, we don't have any negative behaviors. And he said, no maladaptive behaviors, no negative behaviors. And just then, an adult male walked by and wham, slammed his head into the locker. And he was like, wait, what about that? Oh, yeah, he does that all the time. And my professor was like, wait, what? So he made it his business in that moment to reduce that young man's behavior, which, yes, I absolutely would as well. And so my professor, he tried everything. As we talked about, first he went into with the environmental, then the antecedents, then the reinforcers, then the DRO, NCR, extinction, everything. And then one day he sits across from this young man's mom and says, what do you do at home? Because I know he doesn't do this at home. Mom looked at him and said, oh, all I say is, don't do that. That makes mommy sad. And he did that once, probed it out. It absolutely worked. In a couple of months, this behavior went to 0 levels and it was maintained across the years. I even met this young man, did not engage in that behavior. Sorry, I thought there was someone behind me. Overcorrection. Overcorrection is when you, when you engage in behavior, and so not only do you fix your environment, you make the environment better than it originally was. So let's say you have a student, the student puts gum under the table. Not only do you have the student clean the gum off under the table, they have to clean the gum off under all the tables in the room. Shock, I do not at all recommend physical punishments. As my professors in college said, if you're using physical punishments, you are dealing with some very extreme behaviors, as in this child's about to go deaf, blind, or lose a limb from this, or you took a wrong turn someplace. And that's, you can Google things. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Contingent exercise. So contingent upon behavior, the child has to engage in an exercise that has nothing to do with the behavior that the child engaged in. So let's say I'm looking at a tweener teenage male who is level 1 on the spectrum. So contingent upon behavior, let's say he has a dad who's in the military. Contingent upon behavior, let's say he talks back to his military dad. And the dad was well trained by his BCBA. He says, all right, drop and give me 20. Behavior goes down. And actually there's some nice research on that. So that was all positive punishment. So we add something, behavior goes down. So this is negative punishment. So we take away something, behavior goes down. So response cost, taking something away. So this is your, timeout, taking away your iPad, taking away your cell phone, classic things like that. That's a little bit, I don't want to say easier, but a little bit less controversial. But once again, we use it as a last resort. Effects are immediate but temporary. Punisher may need to be increased. So once stopped, behavior will return and may even be worse. Hence, you have to be very careful when you're using punishment. You have to be very smart about it. So escape and avoidance, as we talked about, of people doing it, it evokes emotional and aggressive reactions. So extinction. Does anyone know what extinction is? So extinction is a little bit different from punishment, though some people do get it confused, especially when you first begin to study ABA. So punishment is contingent upon behavior. Something is added, taken away, and the probability of behavior goes down. The distinction is, so basically the behavior is not reinforced. You do nothing to the behavior after the behavior happens. So let's say the slot machine. So ring, I don't know, I don't gamble. But I'm gonna try to pretend to be my grandma who gambles a lot. She loves the slot machine. Rest in peace, Granny. She lives in my heart. So ring, money comes out. Ring, money comes out. So she keeps getting reinforced. So she pulls the lever, that's behavior. Extinction is nothing comes out. She's not reinforced and she's not punished. There you go. So nothing happens. So what's going to happen? My grandma is used to getting reinforced. So she's going to start pulling that lever over and over and over again. So the behavior is actually going to increase initially, but after a while, there's going to be a drop. And then perhaps, there may be what's called a spontaneous recovery after a while, but then it's going to drop again. And you usually get very good results with extinction if you want behavior to go away. But, you don't want to use punishment because extinction, it's just a little less, it's just sometimes easier. And also you can use the vending machine example, and all I could come up was me just shaking it or paying someone to shake it for me in high school, but I don't know, my high school antics probably isn't necessary here. So beware of the burst, as you just talked about, and spontaneous recovery. Extinction burst, an immediate increase in the frequency of responding when the extinction procedure is initially implemented, and spontaneous recovery, as we just talked about, the behavior that diminished during the extinction process reoccurs even though the behavior does not produce reinforcement. So even though the behavior does not produce reinforcement and the behavior is still occurring, this does not mean that extinction was not effective. So this can be short-lived and followed by a decrease in behavior, or the burst can take a while, but sooner or later, it will decrease. So this is what it looks like, and this is easier explained in the graph. So the initial behavior, the ring, ring, ring. So not the vending machine, we're using the slot machine. So as the slot machine stops giving out the coins or the whatever it is, my granny's gonna start pulling on the slot machine a lot more, or I suppose I don't gamble, and the behavior goes up. She's gonna get sick of it. It's gonna get less and less and less. So let's say this is about a month later, she gets interested in gambling again. So one day she's just gonna go down to Atlantic City, sit there, and have a day of gambling, and she sees nothing comes out, it's gonna go away. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
There could be resistance to extinction. Sometimes it is more difficult to extinguish a problem behavior. There are many reasons why there may be resistance to extinction, such as there's a long history of high-quality, frequent reinforcement for that behavior. Intermittent schedules of reinforcement are incredibly resistant to extinction than continuous reinforcement. The problem behavior response required little effort on the part of the individual, or the number of previous extinction trials. This also relates to the intermittent schedules of reinforcement. They can be very resistant to extinction. So our functions of behavior, favorite part. I was training, I loved learning functions of behavior. The why did these children engage in what they engage in? So these are your standard functions. So some people argue there's a little bit more. I do believe there's a little bit more, but if I was writing a paper, this is what I'd write about. Attention, tangibles, escape, and sensory. And this cute little girl. You want me to raise my hand, but you never call me when I raise my hand. So I'm gonna engage in other things to get your attention. That was me when I was a kid. Problem behaviors are more likely to occur during non-demand and low attention situations. Me as a kid, I just want my mom's attention and she just wanted to talk to her church friends. So after a while, after rosary group, yes, she would drag me to rosary group, stations of the cross, all of that. I would act up in church. I'd go, mommy, 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 mommy. So that was me. Here's a common one. A child may engage in problem behavior for access to referred activities and tangibles. So common ones, they may act up for the screen, the iPad, the iPhone, things like that. Another reason, quite common, task demand presented. So that's classwork, homework, chores. Next is boredom. I'm doing nothing, so I'm just gonna do whatever it is. And this one applies to us all, honestly. Sick, ill, honestly, I'm not gonna be in the best moods, and I'm gonna engage in some behaviors myself if I'm sick or ill. ABA therapy, who are we? The what, and what is it? So who are we? So there's the Behavior Analyst Certification Board. I fall into this category, I'm master's level. And then there's the non-certified practitioners. So what is the difference between this one and this one? Because they can be quite similar. So anyone can fall into this category. I have to pass a big old test to become a BCBA. I had to take a lot of classwork, and I had to do a big old practicum. I'm very trained. So what was I trying to communicate? So this category may be as trained or they may not. You do not know what you're getting with this category. This category, you know what you're getting. How can we help? We can help in a plethora of ways. The two main things we do, we reduce behaviors that you don't want. These are the main types of behaviors: SIB, physical aggression, verbal aggression like cursing, telling the parents off, things like that, property destruction, elopement, disruptions, which I usually call like throwing things that they're not supposed to throw, things like that, and behavior increase. Waiting, accepting no, sharing, taking turns, accepting removals, tolerating change, compliance, and communication. Let's see, we're almost done. Proactive strategies, which I've been talking about this entire time. So, environmental control and antecedent interventions, compliance. How to get people to comply. So some things we can do to change our environment, and this is honestly, even though this is a very effective first move, changing the environment instead of changing the child, this is what I recommend first. It actually can be kind of hard because we're telling the parents or the guardians, you have to change yourself instead of changing the child. No one wants to change themselves. They'd rather look at other people, including their child, and say, they're the problem, change that. I'm not calling the parent the problem, but sometimes we just have to change the household structure. We have to work on the transitions. Sometimes we have to change the bedroom, change the lighting, especially if the child has sensory issues. Change the amount of attention kiddo is getting. Remember, it's quality versus quantity. Make sure you're paying good attention to the child, not just you're on your iPhone, yep. Make sure they're getting individual, intimate attention. Make sure you give the child good choices, like truly think about it. Yes, you can ride the pony. No, pay attention to what you're saying. Would you like the blue pill or the blue pill? Follow through on your choices to the best of your ability. Yes, things happen, forgive yourself. Perhaps you say, if you do X, Y, Z, we can go to the park, and then you walk outside, it's raining. That's okay, we'll handle it. But if you say, yes, if you do X, Y, Z, we can have ice cream. And give the kid ice cream if they do X, Y, Z, if they choose. If it's gonna be a big deal, your BCBA can work with you to make a preference board, okay? But choices. Choices are very important, and we see compliance go up when you give children choices. Respond appropriately to requests, aka pick your battles. I think you can just forget ABA, we can just all use this throughout our lives. Pre-med principle, my favorite. Grandma rule. First this, then that. That works amazingly with anyone, not just an ABA. Access to highly preferred activity is contingent on the engagement of lower preferred activity. I used to do this in college to just train myself to work on activities I didn't want longer. So 15 minutes of biology, 5 minutes reading. Yes, I'm a book nerd. 20 minutes of biology, 5 more minutes of reading, or whatever it was. Things like that. I would go up and up and up. medical considerations. This is actually really important. So always rule out medical considerations. Oh, my child, what's a good example? My child, he doesn't pay attention when he writes, he just rushes. So, that could be related to, or their child could be exhibiting symptoms of ADHD. So perhaps instead of, getting the child to slow down before we work on that, you may want to take the child to a doctor. So if something pings in you, you see a correlation of symptoms, it is good to recommend to the parents to take the child to the doctor before you begin working on this, that, and the other. And also learning the side effects of medications too is important. Natural environmental training, this is where I have a lot of fun. So don't assume the individual can or can't do something. Instead, gauge the attempt, the effort, and be ready to step in using prompts, such as verbal prompting, partial prompting, and full physical prompting. A problem behavior may be due to a skill deficit versus performance deficit, lack of coping skills, so natural environmental training. So people usually think of ABA with classic DTT, classic chaining, things like that, which, yeah, we do a lot of that. But natural environmental training is combining the DTTs with the child's world. We do a lot of that in home depending on the child. So instead of just showing the child a picture, say, what's this? Cat. I may take the child's little hand, with mom's permission or mom following me, depending on which company I'm working for. Currently, with Step Up, the parents always have to be around. Not every company says that. So, we may go for a walk. And then, if I'm doing a labeling program, perhaps there's a kitty, in the street. I'm from a village, I'm from the countryside, it's fine, the kitty's in the street. So I may say, okay, let's label. What's that? Kitty. That's natural environmental training. I love doing that. It's so much more fun than staying in the house. Some children do classic though. Where can you find us? Anywhere. Businesses, schools, in-home intensive therapy, blah, blah, blah. You can find us anywhere, including the FBI. Yes. My sister keeps trying to get me to work for the FBI. Maybe one day. Actually, I have a younger cousin who's also named Anne-Marie, who's going into psychology, trying to encourage her to do this. Yes, keep calm and call the behavior analyst. And ta-da! I'm not sure how long that was, but I'm guessing within a half hour.
Thank you.
Anytime. Any questions?
Support public libraries. Like, share, and subscribe for more great videos.